Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear students, welcome again to the course of Fundamentals of Public Administration. The course code is MPA 406. Okay, before we move on to our today's topic of discussion, let us have a brief reflection that what we have discussed in our previous lecture. Okay, in our previous lecture we discussed about Power and Politics School. Now this school attempts to understand the concept of power and politics in organization. Now let me ask you a very brief question. What comes in your mind when you think of power and politics in your organization? Okay, power, I think that most of us know that power, like power of a manager or power of a general manager or power of a secretary or a joint secretary or things like that. Okay, what about politics? Okay, what comes in your mind when we talk about politics in our organizations? Okay, so in our previous lecture we talked about power and politics in our organizations, and then without power, so here we are talking about the role of power in organizations. So without power, organizations will not be able to achieve their goals. Now this is really very important, that power is important, power is required in order to achieve the goals. So when we talk about goals, what is a goal? Now goal means a long-term objectives, the long-term purpose. So something that is in, like, that takes more time, that takes like few years to achieve, that is a long-term, and that is a long-term goal. So, and the objectives. So how do you differentiate between goals and objectives? Now objectives are the short term and goals are the long term. Now objectives are coming out of the goals. Now it means that if organizations, they want to achieve their long term goals, they need to have power, because manager exert influence to force people to do things that they want. So it means that a kind of force is required, a kind of power is required. So let us suppose that if the managers, they do not have that influencing power. So without having that influencing power, managers cannot make their team members or followers or office fellows to do certain things. So it means that in order to accomplish your goals, power has a very important role there, and it has a very significant relationship with goal achievement. Now politics is about controlling resources. So when we talk about resources, there are four types of resources: human, financial, physical, and information. Okay, human resources means what? Human resources means that all the persons who are working in any organization at any level, they are called the human resources. And then we talk about the financial resources. Now financial resources means the money, the capital, जो पैसा आप invest करें अपने business में, अपने organization में, whether it is a public sector organization or a private sector organization, तो जो आप पैसा, capital, जो investment है, that is your financial resource. And then we talk about physical resources. Now physical resources means land, then your building, your computers, furniture, things like that. And then we talk about information resources, like for example TV, radio, newspaper, magazines. So we talk about print and electronic media most of the time when we talk about information resources. So politics is about controlling all these four resources. Now in order to best manage all these four resources, politics again has a very important role here to play. Now politics is also about distribution of resources. Who gets what, how, when and where. according to Harold Lasswell 1936. So this is really very important that we have these 4 type of resources. Of course, we need to distribute these resources according to certain requirements, according to certain demands. Of course, you cannot provide all resources equally to all departments because every department has a different need. So first of all, it is the job responsibility of a good manager to forecast, to identify the correct ground reality and the correct needs, what is really required in any particular department, and then try to provide those resources. So hence politics play a very important role in order to control the resources and then in order to distribute those resources appropriately in any organization. Now talking about power and politics, so when we say that what are the powers managers use in the organization, so these certain powers are, the first one is the legitimate power. Now legitimate power means that, for example, if you are working as a finance manager, now finance manager has certain powers, so it means that the designation of finance manager has certain powers, and if that person does not have that designation, it means that that person do not have that legitimate powers. For example, we talked about police officer, like for example we talk about SHO police. So SHO police has certain powers. So this is called legitimate power. Okay, whatever you do, you have a designation in any organization, and that designation has certain powers, and that is called legitimate power. So as far as जब तक आपके पास वो designation है, जब तक आप उस designation पे काम कर रहे हैं, you have those legitimate powers with you. Then reward and punishment power. Again, this is really a very common phenomena in every organization, that there is a system of reward and punishment. Of course, if employees they perform the best, they are eligible to get certain rewards. And on the other side, if the employees are not working well, or they are not achieving targets, or if their performance is declining, so it means that the top management needs to take corrective measures. So of course punishment comes there. So there is power of reward and punishment, and the manager has that power and punishment power. Then we have the expert power. Now as the name says itself, that expert power, the more expert you are, the more power you have. Like for example, if you are expert in delivering presentations, so you develop a power of presentation skill. If you develop if you are able, if you are a really good expert in of course correcting any machinery, or doing some projects, or making feasibility reports, again that is your certain expertise. So the more you increase your expertise, the more power you enjoy. And then we talk about referent power. All the organizations, they are always looking for wonderful people who may join those organizations. So in order to select the best people, what some good organizations do is that they ask their best employees, जिन employees के ऊपर वो trust करते हैं, बहुत believe करते हैं, और जो उनके जो बहुत competent employees हैं, so organizations, they ask the most competent and trusted persons in their organizations, that they may recommend any persons for some political some vacant positions. Now in any organizations there are different vacant positions, so in order to fill those positions, so what the big organizations sometimes they do, they ask their employees to give them employee referrals. Now employee referrals here means that employees, they suggest few names whom they believe that they can perform those jobs to be filled in most efficiently and effectively. So this is one good way of course reducing your hiring cost and getting the best talent available in the market. Then in our previous lecture we talked about these different areas. Firstly, we talked about conflict. So what comes in your mind when we talk about conflicts? Now, conflict means that some disagreement, some tension, some having a different point of view, things like that. So when we talked about conflict, we talked, when we say that we have a conflict, what does it mean? It means that there is no place on earth that is without conflict. So having conflict is not a bad thing, because having conflict is a natural phenomenon. Now, like for instance, you're working in any organization, जैसे आप खुद अगर जॉब करते हैं, या आपके भाई बहन, आपके पेरेंट्स जॉब करते हैं, आपके फैमिली वाले जॉब करते हैं, आपके फ्रेंड्स में कोई जॉब कर रहे हैं, so you may ask them that do they have conflicts. So having conflicts at your workplace is a natural phenomenon. So there is no harm with it जब तक कि हम इस conflict को positive conflict तक रहने दें. So when it moves towards negative conflict, that is bad. So organizations को चाहिए कि they need to promote positive conflict. So promoting positive conflict is required in organizations, and then of course discouraging the negative conflict. So what do we mean by positive conflict and negative conflict? Now, positive conflict means that somebody giving you positive suggestions, some wonderful suggestions for improvement. That is called positive conflict. But like for example, criticism for the sake of criticism is not a positive conflict. It is a negative conflict. So organizations and the top management and the concerned persons, they need to be highly careful regarding conflicts. So whenever conflicts arise in any organization, it is the major responsibility of the management to manage the conflict. And then in our previous lecture, we did comparison of Indus Valley civilization focusing on Mughal and British periods, and then we also talked about civil service of Pakistan. Finally, in our previous lecture, we talked about recruitment of public servants. So जब हमने recruitment of public servants की बात की, तो we talked about the roles of Public Service Commission, that is the Federal Public Service Commission and the Provincial Public Service Commissions. And then we talk about the autonomous organizations. They recruit people directly. Test and interview is conducted by the respective autonomous organization. Now, recruitment procedure की जब हम बात करते हैं, तो of course जब फेडरल गवर्नमेंट में और प्रोविंशियल गवर्नमेंट्स में जो पब्लिक सेक्टर में ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, दे रिक्रूट विद द हेल्प ऑफ फेडरल पब्लिक सर्विस कमीशन एंड प्रोविंशियल पब्लिक सर्विस कमीशन. जैसे हम ऑटोनमस बॉडीज की यहाँ पे बात कर रहे हैं, लेट अस फॉर एग्जांपल वी टॉक अबाउट यूनिवर्सिटीज. सो पब्लिक सेक्टर यूनिवर्सिटीज ऑफ पाकिस्तान, दे आर कॉल्ड द ऑटोनमस ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस. Now these autonomous organizations, they also hire people, and they hire people directly. So there is a procedure in autonomous organizations, जो हमने पिछले लेक्चर में बात की थी, कि they have that selection board. In that selection board, they have members from Education Ministry, they have members from the Supreme Court of Pakistan, they have members from Higher Education Commission, and they have a subject specialist as a member in those selection committees. So then the selection board is headed by the Vice Chancellor, and that overall that selection board is overall headed by the Executive Council or the Board of Governors of that particular university. So in this way, first the selection board recommends any job applicant, and those job applicants are finally given the approval by the highest Executive Council. Okay, and then we talked about different functions performed by Pakistan government, and the first thing is the Pakistan government is responsible to maintain peace in Pakistan. So now you see that आजकल के जो हालात हम देख रहे हैं कि it is the primary responsibility of the government of Pakistan to maintain peace. क्योंकि जब तक पाकिस्तान में पीसफुल इन्वायरमेंट नहीं होगा उस वक्त तक पाकिस्तान में सबसे जो इश्यूज हमें नज़र आ रहे हैं, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट का इशू है, पाकिस्तान में फॉरेन इन्वेस्टमेंट जो है वो डिक्लाइन की तरफ जो हमें नंबर्स नज़र आ रहे हैं, और देन ऑफ कोर्स जो पाकिस्तान के अंदर जो इन्वेस्टमेंट है वहाँ पे अगर हम चाहते हैं कि इसमें इम्प्रूवमेंट आए, इसमें बेहतरी आए और ज़्यादा पाकिस्तान का नाम बुलंद हो, रोशन हो, पाकिस्तान की इकोनॉमी स्ट्रांग हो, तो उसके लिए बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट जो बात यहाँ पे इम्पॉर्टेंट है कि हमें वी मस्ट डू टेक मेजर्स, वी मस्ट टेक करेक्टिव मेजर्स in order to maintain peace in Pakistan. And that is of course the major responsibility of the government of Pakistan. Another function performed by government of Pakistan is to provide defense. किसी भी मुल्क के जो इकोनॉमी है, किसी भी मुल्क की जो तरक्की है, किसी भी मुल्क के अंदर जो पीस है और किसी मुल्क के अंदर जो डेवलपमेंट है और किसी भी मुल्क के अंदर हम कहते हैं कि वहाँ के सिटीजन्स दे आर हैप्पी, उसके लिए किसी भी मुल्क की जो बाउंड्रीज हैं उसका स्ट्रॉन्ग होना बहुत ज़रूरी है. एंड इन ऑर्डर टू स्ट्रेंथन द बाउंड्रीज दिस इज रियली वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू हैव ए अनब्रेकेबल strongest defense mechanism, and that is again one of the major functions performed by the government of Pakistan. Then collection of revenue is another significant function of the government of Pakistan. Like for example, people pay taxes, and then how to develop that mechanism, how to ensure that you are able to get taxes from the people of Pakistan, from those who are earning or who are doing some business. So it is mandatory that the government should collect taxes from the persons who are involved in business or they are doing any activity and they are earning something from different activities. So collection of revenue is another important major function of the government of Pakistan. And finally, to maintain currency. So printing of notes and coins, that is again a most important function of the government of Pakistan. So इस सिलसिले में जो भी corrective measures हैं ताकि इस किसी किस्म की shortage ना हो पाकिस्तान में, coins की और currency की shortage ना हो, तो उसके लिए ज़रूरी है कि government of पाकिस्तान जो है उसको अपना रोल, उसका major रोल है कि वो ensure करे कि shortage ना हो currency notes की और coins की पाकिस्तान में. Okay, now moving towards the civil service reforms. Soon after the independence of Pakistan, the government decided to review the system of administration, and some foreign experts were invited to study and make recommendation in this connection. The famous among these expert reports were the two reports, and these are called Eager Report 1953 and Gladiox Report. So let us have a look of both of these reports. The first one is the report written by Roland Eager. So in 1953, Roland Eager of USA made following observations about the civil service of Pakistan. So Roland Eager, he said that it is possessed with interest of those already in service. Now this is really a very interesting and very important finding or observation made by Roland Eager on the civil service of Pakistan, and he says that those who are in it, they possess it. So so people who are working as public servants or civil servants in Pakistan, they possess it. So meaning that they own it and they really love to do their jobs and they really love to do whatever are their responsibilities. Then recruitment standards are outdated. Now this is another very important observation, or I may call it a major recommendation as well, that recruitment standards are outdated. Now we have like a traditional system of recruitment, like for example what we see normally, that there are written tests and then there are interviews, and in those written tests there are traditional type of questions. Like for example, most of the time they are trying to check the memories. So this is really strange that like for example when we are hiring on those positions where we need to know that people who apply for those jobs, they should have strong concepts, in-depth thinking. So in order to find out the best match between the job responsibilities and the persons, and then of course, so trying to find a best match between the responsibilities the person needs to perform after joining the job and the existing competencies. So when you try to match it, so this is really very important that recruitment standards needs to be updated. So we need to, what I learned from these observation made by Rowell and Eager here, that we need to update the recruitment and selection process in the civil service. So this is really very important, and this is again a very important recommendation for the public sector of Pakistan. Then the Rowell and Eager talked about recruitment techniques, and he said that these techniques are far from currently accepted good practices. Again, he again re-emphasizes that recruitment techniques are outdated. Like for example, the way you conduct tests and the way you conduct interviews, and in those interviews, of course, in most of the cases they are typical questions. So questions are like again test of memory and some traditional questions. So we need to look into that, and we need to improve the recruitment process as a whole. So further, Rowell and Eager recommended the following to improve civil service of Pakistan. Now, a standardized pay scales based on comprehensive job analysis. Now, this is really very important. So, किसी भी job को advertise करने से पहले human resource planning की जाती है, और human resource planning के अंदर आप करते हैं, you do that job analysis. कि you like for example, if you want to hire manager marketing, so manager marketing को hire करने से पहले what the organization will do, they will conduct that job analysis. Now job analysis में वो क्या करेंगे, they will do that human resource planning, जिसमें वो देखेंगे कि पाकिस्तान के अंदर या दुनिया के अंदर जो marketing managers हैं उनके क्या क्या roles हैं, और वो जो marketing managers काम कर रहे हैं वो क्या activities perform कर रहे हैं, उनकी क्या जॉब एलिजिबिलिटी क्राइटेरिया क्या है, और कॉम्पिटेंसीज क्या रिक्वायरमेंट है, एक्सपीरियंस रिक्वायरमेंट्स क्या क्या हैं, व्हाट आर द बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस और द हाईएस्ट स्टैंडर्ड्स और द बेंचमार्क्स in with respect to their responsibilities. So this is really very important. And then Rowell and Eager again emphasize that there should be standardized pay scales. Now the more complicated the job responsibility is, the highest the pay level should be. So again this is really very important for the motivation of employees that वो बहुत challenging काम कर रहे हैं, बहुत tough काम कर रहे हैं, तो उनकी salary भी उसी के हिसाब से, उनका grade भी उसी के हिसाब से होना चाहिए, और अगर वो बहुत easy काम कर रहे हैं और उसमें इतना कोई challenge involved नहीं है, तो उनका जो pay scale है वो उसी हिसाब से कम होना चाहिए. The generalists should not dominate other services according to Rowell and Eager. जो journalists हैं, like for example people who know things in general, should not dominate other services, and then there is need to have specialization in the civil service. Now he pointed out really a big gap that what needs to be done in the civil sector of Pakistan, and he rightly mentioned here that there is need to have a specialization in the civil service. Now talking about the next philosopher here, and who in 1955 Mr. Bernard Gladieux, also from USA, was engaged by government as consultant on public administration. Now he said that technical and professional civil servants also possessed administrative skills and should be encouraged to hold higher positions. Now this is really very important, that now when you read this paragraph again, what comes in your mind? He said that technical and professional civil servants also possessed administrative skills and should be encouraged to hold higher positions. So he emphasized on the significance and importance of technical and professional civil servants, and he says that they have those required administrative skills like planning, organizing, leading, controlling, and things like that. And they should be motivated to hold higher level positions. So in 1955, the first 5-year plan of the government of Pakistan also took note of dominance of the generalist cadre of civil service over other cadres. So it was recommended in the plan that non-technical central superior services should be converted into branches of this combined civil services, all having identical pay scales. They should be treated as if they were the branches of a single central service. Now we carry our discussions on civil service reforms. So talking about the Pay and Service Commission 1962. Now let's have a look of this table. Now in 1962, the Pay and Service Commission also criticized the reservation of the senior post for the CSP, especially at the center. Now this report recommended that the entire public service should be built up in 7 tiers of groups. So these 7 tiers of groups are as follows. Now when you look at this table, you see on first column we have the group, on the next column we have the grade, and on third column we have the description. So according to this Pay and Service Commission recommendation, the group F should have grade 4, and the description is unskilled workers. So persons who do not have any skills. So persons without any skill, they are included in this cadre 4, and this is grade 4 and group F. Then in Pay and Service Commission, they recommended that there should be group E, and the grade is 4, and it has the description is semi-skilled workers. Now here we are talking about those workers who do not have the complete competence or do not have the complete skill, but they know partially. So it means that they comes under the category of semi-skilled workers. Then group D, in group D it is ranked in grade 5. So skilled workers and rank and file staff. So here the Pay and Service Commission talk about the those workers who have the skill, who have the competence. And then the group C, it has a grade of 5, and lower inspectional and middle supervisory staff. Then it talked about group B having a grade of 4. So basic officer class is shown here. And then talking about group A, and that is in group 4, grade 4, and that means that managerial class, district level up to divisional level. And finally PAS, Pakistan Administrative Service, this is grade 4, and the description is top directly and higher administrative positions. Now when you again have a look of this table, what comes in your mind? Now again I repeat, in 1962 the Pay and Service Commission also criticized the reservation of senior posts for the CSP, especially at the center. So this Pay and Service Commission report recommended that the entire public service should be built up in 7 tiers of groups. So we have just discussed those 7 tiers of groups. Now talking about civil service reforms, we move on our discussion towards Working Group 1969. So working group, which comprised of CSP as well as non-CSP officers, was appointed by the government to study the structure of the civil service. So the working group gave the following recommendations. The first is all branches of civil service should have same status, though they should retain their individuality. So what comes in your mind when you read this first bullet? All branches of civil service should have same status, though they should retain their individuality. So meaning that all civil service branches, they should have the same level of status, but their individuality should not be mixed. So they should maintain a difference. They should of course focus on certain of their competitive edge, and they need to look different here. And then for ex-cadre positions, same criteria should be used as for the cadre services. Then there should be no difference of pay scales of the provincial and central civil servants. Again, a very important recommendation of the working group of 1969 here is the last one. There should be no difference of pay scales of the provincial and central civil servants. So this is really very important. There should be no discrimination, and the pay scales should be same in whether we are talking about the provincial or central civil servants. Now, talking about Administrative Reforms Committee of 1972. So this committee was appointed to study all aspects of the civil service and made the following recommendations based on careful observations. The first of their observation is all services and cadres should be merged into a unified graded structure with equality of opportunity for all who enter service at any stage, based on the required professional and specialized competence necessary for the job. The next one is all classes among government servants would be abolished and replaced by a unified graded structure, a peon at the bottom and secretary at the top. Now, continuing our discussion on the Administrative Reforms Committee of 1972. So this committee was appointed to study all aspects of the civil service and made the following recommendations based on careful observations. The correct grading of each post will be determined by job evaluation. So this is really very important here. Now I want you to focus please on this bullet number 1. The correct grading of each post will be determined by job evaluation. So this is really very important. First of all, you need to evaluate the job in order to correct the grade of each post. Then there should be provision for entry into government service of talented individuals from private sector in such field as banking, insurance, etc. Now we move on our discussions towards implementation of the reforms. So in the light of directives, the measures taken for implementation of the reforms included, the number 1 is the head of ministry was secretary who was in grade 22. The additional secretary was in grade 21. There were lower grades for junior executive. There were about 600 grades or scale up pay of the government which were reduced to 22 grades. So these were applicable to all government organizations and professions. So grade 1 was the lowest and grade 23 was highest grade. So here you see that grade 1 is the lowest and grade 23 is the highest grade. So grade 23 was the post of Secretary General, and there were only 2 to 3 positions in government. Now in order to emphasize professionalism in the field of administration, the following occupational groups were formed. So you can see the list from 1 to 15. The first one is we have district management group, then we have the police group, then we have the income tax group, then we have the customs and excise group, then we have the accounts group, then we have the information group, postal group, commerce group, foreign affairs group, office management group, military land and cantonment group, railways group, secretariat group, tribal areas group, and finally economists and planners group. So in addition, age limit for competitive examination was raised from 28 to 30 years. Now promotion was made purely on the basis of merit and performance. So again, a very important point here that promotion was made purely on the basis of merit and performance. So whenever we talk about promotion, so we talk about merit and we talk about performance. So following the open merit system and following the real promotion criteria is really very important. And then common training was given to all the officers in academy for administrative training. and then rules and regulations were framed for the implementation of these reforms. So now you here see that you're talking about the rules and regulations were framed for the implementation of these reforms. So rules and regulations को आपने एक खास तरह डिजाइन किया in order to successfully implement those reforms जो कि हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं सिविल सर्विस रिफॉर्म्स के अंडर. And then the civil service today, the Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan 1973 gives the executive authority of federation, which is exercised by the government in the name of president. Now the Prime Minister is the chief executive of the federation, and the federal cabinet exercises its authority to him. According to the fourth schedule, there is concurrent list of areas responsibility of federal government. Now the concurrent list gives responsibilities of both the governments, federal and provincial. Now we move on our discussion towards categories of the civil service, and the services and posts under the government of Pakistan, whether under federal or provincial, can be classified in the following three categories, and broadly these three categories are: the first one is the generalist services. So recruitment is based on the basis of general education of candidate. Now this is really very important, that recruitment is based on the basis of general education of candidate. कि when you are hiring people for the civil service of Pakistan, the basic criteria of recruitment is of general education, and then semi-technical specialized services. So recruitment here is based on the advanced academic attainment in university without formal education or training in professional institution. So here you see that the applicant need to have a advanced academic attainment in a university, but without any formal or education or training in professional institution. And then we talk about the third category is purely technical services. So here recruitment on technical qualification like doctor and engineers. Okay, now we move on our discussion towards civil service recruitment in Pakistan. Here the criteria of recruitment to civil service in Pakistan are based on pure merit. Now जब हम merit की बात करते हैं तो आपके ज़हन में क्या आता है? Okay, merit का ये मतलब है कि right person for the right job. So merit का ये मतलब है कि आप जो भी आप का क्राइटेरिया हो, नंबर वन कि वो क्राइटेरिया, जैसे आप एलिजिबिलिटी, जॉब एलिजिबिलिटी क्राइटेरिया की बात कर रहे हैं, तो दैट शुड बी अकॉर्डिंग टू सर्टन स्टैंडर्ड्स, नंबर वन. दूसरा, जो जॉब एप्लीकेंट्स अप्लाई करते हैं उसको जिस प्रोसेस में आप फिल्टर करेंगे, जिस प्रोसेस में से गुजार के आप फाइनल सिलेक्शन करेंगे, वो सारे का सारा प्रोसेस जो है दैट शुड बी प्योरली ऑन merit basis. Then all posts must be advertised before selection. Again very important that selection से पहले तमाम पोस्टों को आपने एडवर्टाइज करना है. ओके, यहाँ पे ये मैं बताता चलूँ कि जब आप पोजीशंस को एडवर्टाइज करते हैं तो डेफिनेटली तमाम जो बेस्ट पॉसिबल जॉब एप्लीकेंट्स हैं वो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में अप्लाई करते हैं. Now this is really very important कि you must advertise. अगर आप advertise नहीं करते तो it means कि something is not good because you are not promoting the best candidates. आप best possible candidates को पाकिस्तान में उनको चांस नहीं दे रहे. So as per laws जो हैं आपको advertise करना है और advertise करके आपने applications जो हैं वो invite करनी है. Then assessment is based on selection board, selection committees, etc. तो जब आपने रिक्रूटमेंट करनी है तो जो सिलेक्शन जो है वो सिलेक्शन बोर्ड करेंगे, सिलेक्शन कमेटीज करेंगे. जो भी एम्प्लॉयज़ को आपने हायर करना है तो उनकी सिलेक्शन का ऑफ कोर्स एक प्रोसीजर है. जैसे हमने पहले बात की थी कि यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के अंदर एक प्रोसीजर है, इसी तरह फेडरल पब्लिक सर्विस कमीशन के अंदर और प्रोविंशियल पब्लिक सर्विस कमीशन के अंदर एक प्रोसीजर है. एंड देन ड्यू रिप्रेजेंटेशन टू एवरी प्रोविंस इज गिवन. सो दिस इज रियली वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि पाकिस्तान के तमाम प्रोविंसेस को इक्वल एक अपॉर्चुनिटी दी जाती है कि वो अपनी रिप्रेजेंटेशन लेके आए और वो अपनी एक वहाँ पे रोल जो है परफॉर्म करें. So talking about the civil service reforms, now we talk about the appointing authority. The appointing authority for various grades is also follows. Like for example, कि आपने अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के अंदर ग्रेड 20 या 20 से ऊपर के पर्सन को हायर करना है, so the appointing authority is only the president of Pakistan. Then grade 17 to 19 establishment जो है is responsible for the recruitment, and then grade 3 to 16 ministry जो है वो responsible है, ministry is called the appointing authority. In grade 1 and 2 head office. So this is really very important कि organization जो है, अगर आप देखें कि grade 1 and 2 में जो organization है जिनको employees चाहिए, they decide to hire or not to hire. But when we talk about grade 3 to 16 grade, ministry, the concerned ministry decides, and then we talk about grade 17 to 19, establishment decides. And when we talk about grade 20 and above, we talk about that grade 20 and above officers are to be selected by the President of Pakistan. Now main recruiting agencies की जब हम बात करते हैं पाकिस्तान में, the names are Federal Public Service Commission at the federal level. Then we talk about the Provincial Public Service Commission at the provincial level. Then we talk about the departmental selection or promotion committees. Now this is really very interesting when we talk about the civil service reforms. Now we move towards trainings. Now training of civil servant is divided into the following. The first one is pre-service training. Pre-service training से क्या मुराद है कि this training is given before entry to service. Now this is really very important कि आप अपनी जॉब शुरू करने से पहले, कोई भी एक्टिविटी शुरू करने से पहले आपकी प्री सर्विस ट्रेनिंग क्या है, कि आप पहले क्या ट्रेनिंग लेके आए हुए हैं. एंड देन वी टॉक अबाउट जब हम बात करते हैं प्री सर्विस ट्रेनिंग की, तो इट इज़ वन ऑफ द मेजर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के जो एम्प्लॉयज़ हैं उनके काम शुरू करने से पहले आप उनको प्री सर्विस ट्रेनिंग दें ताकि वो फेमिलियर हो जाएं उस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के साथ. क्योंकि मोस्टली जो एम्प्लॉयज़ हैं वो अभी स्टूडेंट्स थे और उन्होंने अपनी क्वालिफिकेशंस कंप्लीट की हैं और अब वो जॉब करने के लिए फॉर द वेरी फर्स्ट टाइम आए हैं. तो डेफिनेटली जो बुक्स उन्होंने पढ़ी हैं, बुक्स के अंदर थ्योरी दी हुई है, और जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के अंदर उन्होंने आके काम करना है, दैट इज़ प्योरली ऑफ प्रैक्टिकल नेचर. तो थ्योरी एंड प्रैक्टिस के गैप को मिनिमाइज करने के लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है कि एक प्री सर्विस ट्रेनिंग एम्प्लॉयज़ को दी जाए. देन इन सर्विस ट्रेनिंग, दिस ट्रेनिंग इज गिवन ड्यूरिंग द सर्विस. अच्छा, ड्यूरिंग सर्विस आप कैसे ट्रेनिंग दे सकते हैं? फॉर एग्जाम्पल देर आर टू मेथड्स, ऑन द जॉब ट्रेनिंग्स एंड ऑफ द जॉब ट्रेनिंग मेथड्स. सो व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट ऑन द जॉब ट्रेनिंग मेथड्स, व्हाट कम्स इन योर माइंड? ऑन द जॉब ट्रेनिंग मेथड्स means that like for example आप अपने कोलीग के साथ बैठ जाते हैं, आप किसी को ऑब्जर्व करते हैं, आपको कोई एक्टिविटी दी जाती है और उसके साथ आपको सुपरवाइजर एलोकेट किया जाता है. सो इस तरह की जब आप एक्टिविटीज़ करते हैं विद द हेल्प ऑफ ऑब्जर्वेशन और वर्किंग विद द हेल्प ऑफ अदर्स और ट्राइंग टू डू लाइक अदर्स इनिशियली एंड देन उसके बाद सीखने के बाद आप फिर उनसे बेहतर करने की कोशिश करते हैं, दिस इज कॉल्ड ऑन द जॉब ट्रेनिंग. वेयर ऑफ द जॉब ट्रेनिंग में क्या है कि फॉर एग्जांपल अगर आप स्टडीज़ पे चले जाते हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल आप अपनी फर्दर कोई स्कॉलरशिप्स आपको मिल जाते हैं, कोई सेमिनार या वर्कशॉप अटेंड करने के लिए आप चले जाते हैं, या मुल्क से बाहर आप पेपर प्रेजेंटेशन के लिए चले जाते हैं, मुल्क के अंदर रहते हुए आप पेपर प्रेजेंटेशन के लिए चले जाते हैं. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड योर ऑफ द जॉब ट्रेनिंग. Now we talk about the major training institutions in Pakistan, and the names are National Institute of Public Administration, Pakistan Academy for Rural Development, and then there is Pakistan Administrative Staff College. Now we move on our discussions towards overview of 1973 Constitution of Pakistan. So we will start with the preamble of the Constitution. So our preamble is the preface or introduction which tells us the main focus of the document. So according to the preamble, the entire control of universe belongs to Allah. So now you see that this is really very important कि इस पूरी यूनिवर्स का जो कंट्रोल है that belongs to only Allah. Now, whereas sovereignty over the entire universe belongs to Allah alone, and the authority to be exercised by the people of Pakistan within limits prescribed by Him is a sacred trust. Now, talking about the Republic of Pakistan, the Constitution explains a republic as Pakistan shall be a federal republic to be known as the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. So पाकिस्तान का जो नाम यहाँ पे सजेस्ट हुआ कि पाकिस्तान इज़ अ फेडरल पब्लिक और इसको इस्लामिक रिपब्लिक ऑफ पाकिस्तान कहकर पुकारा जाए. Federal Republic means that the country has provinces and these together constitute the federation. कि फेडरल पब्लिक से क्या मुराद है कि इस फेडरल पब्लिक के देर आर प्रोविंसेस जो कि मिल के एक फेडरेशन को बनाते हैं. सो बिसाइड्स वी कॉल आवरसेल्व्स इस्लामिक रिपब्लिक because we are ideological state, as a basis of independence of this country is इस्लाम. तो पाकिस्तान जो है वो इस्लाम के नाम पर हासिल किया गया. पाकिस्तान में इस्लामी इक़दार को फ़रोग़ देने के लिए पाकिस्तान को हासिल किया गया और पाकिस्तान का नाम से ज़ाहिर है कि इस्लामिक रिपब्लिक ऑफ पाकिस्तान की जब हम बात करते हैं तो दैट शोज़ द डेडिकेशन एंड कमिटमेंट ऑफ द पीपल ऑफ पाकिस्तान. Now we move on our discussion on the 1973 Constitution of Pakistan. It says that talking about the territories. So according to the Constitution, the territories of the state are the province of Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Punjab and Sindh. So the Islamabad capital territory herein referred to as the federal capital. तो जब आप पाकिस्तान की कैपिटल की बात करते हैं यू टॉक अबाउट इस्लामाबाद, और जब आप पाकिस्तान की प्रोविंसेस की बात करते हैं तो आप बलोचिस्तान की बात करते हैं, खैबर पख्तूनख्वा की बात करते हैं, पंजाब की बात करते हैं और सिंध की बात करते हैं. तो फेडरली एडमिनिस्ट्रेटेड ट्राइबल एरियाज आर आल्सो देयर एंड देन सच स्टेट्स एंड टेरिटरीज as or may be included in Pakistan whether by taking over or otherwise. Now, talking about the 1973 Constitution of Pakistan, here we talk about the state religion. So according to the Article 2 of the Constitution, Islam is the state religion of Pakistan. तो 1973 के Constitution के मुताबिक पाकिस्तान का जो स्टेट रिलीजन है, पाकिस्तान का जो कौमी जो एक मज़हब है, दैट इज़ इस्लाम. Now here we talk about the definition of the state. So Article 7 of the Constitution of 1973 gives definition of the state, which is as follows. The first thing is, state means the federal government, parliament, provincial government, a provisional assembly and such local or other authorities in Pakistan as are by law empowered to impose any tax. So this is really very important. So the state comprises of all governments, that is federal, provincial and the assemblies and the local or other authorities. Then it means it comprises of all these institutions which are permanent. Now we move on our discussion towards state and government. Now it is appropriate to differentiable between government and state. This is really very important. We should know the differences. So, but it must be stated that the two are used interchangeably. And now as per Constitution, the basic difference is that the state institutions are fixed, but people who occupy the positions in the institutions may come and go. So again, if you read this third bullet, please. As per Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, the basic difference between the state and the government is the state institutions are fixed, but people who occupy the position in the institutions may come and go. So thus government will come after every 5 years through elections as given in the Constitution and go after 5 years. So that shows the difference between the state and the government. Now we moving on the same discussion, that is about state and government difference. So it means people have fixed period in which they took government in generic compromise. So this is like this comprise of elected representatives, politicians, members of political parties, judiciary, executive career civil servants. So जब हम बात करते हैं गवर्नमेंट की कि स्टेट एंड गवर्नमेंट की बात करते हैं तो गवर्नमेंट के अंदर कौन कौन से डिपार्टमेंट्स फंक्शंस आ जाते हैं, आपके इलेक्टेड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स हैं, दैट इंक्लूड्स योर पॉलिटिशियंस एंड मेंबर्स ऑफ पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज, देन जुडिशरी की हम बात करते हैं और एग्जीक्यूटिव की हम बात करते हैं. Now moving on our discussion on the Federation of Pakistan. The Federation is the unity of all the constituent units, and Article 41 of the Constitution defines President as the symbol of unity. तो जब हम पाकिस्तान की बात करते हैं तो President of Pakistan is called the symbol of unity, and then Article 41 जो है वो एक unity की बात कर रहा है, और then this article says that there shall be President of Pakistan who shall be the head of state and shall represent the unity of state. तो unity of state की जब हम बात करते हैं, पाकिस्तान की representation की बात करते हैं, the role of President of Pakistan comes in according to this constitution. Now we carry on our discussions toward the parliament. So Article 50 of the constitution explains the parliament. So it says that there shall be a Majlis-e-Shura, Parliament of Pakistan, consisting of the President and two houses to be known respectively as National Assembly and the Senate. और National Assembly की Senate की जब हम यहाँ पे बात करेंगे तो National Assembly से क्या मुराद है कि Article 51 explains that the National Assembly shall consist of 332 Muslim members to be elected by direct and free vote in accordance with law. So जहाँ पे हमने बात की कि 332 आपके मुस्लिम मेंबर्स हैं टू बी इलेक्टेड बाय डायरेक्ट एंड फ्री वोट इन अकॉर्डेंस विद लॉ फॉर द नेशनल असेंबली. वेयर आज जब बात करते हैं आप अपनी बिसाइड देयर शैल बी 10 नॉन मुस्लिम मेंबर्स एंड द टोटल मेंबर इन नेशनल असेंबली शैल बी 342. तो जैसे हमने पहले बात की कि 332 उसमें मुस्लिम मेंबर्स होंगे नेशनल असेंबली में, और 10 जो मेंबर्स हैं वो आपके नॉन मुस्लिम्स होंगे. नॉन मुस्लिम से क्या मुराद है कि ऐसे जो मिनॉरिटी पाकिस्तान में रहती है तो उनको रिप्रेजेंट करने के लिए जो मेंबर्स हैं उनको भी 10 सीट्स यहाँ पे दी गई हैं. एंड देन द नेशनल असेंबली इज आल्सो कॉल्ड द लोअर हाउस इन पाकिस्तान. Now we talk about the Senate. Now the Senate is upper house, and according to Article 59(1) of the Constitution, the Senate shall consist of 100 members, of whom 14 shall be elected by members of each provincial assembly. तो अगर हम provincial assemblies को देखते हैं तो 14 multiplied by 4, तो चारों provincial assemblies को जो हैं उसको elect करेंगी members को, and then 8 shall be elected from FATA, federally administered tribal areas, and then 2 on general seats and 1 women and 1 technocrat. Now 4 women shall be elected by the members of each provincial assembly, and 4 technocrats including ulama shall be elected by the members of each provincial assembly. So the total of all the above seats comes to 100. So this is really very important to know about the composition of Senate in Pakistan. Now we move on our discussions towards federal government. So Article 90 of the Constitution provides for the exercise of executive authority by the President. The executive authority of the Federation shall vest in the President and shall be exercised by him either directly or through officers subordinate to him. तो यहाँ पे हम बात करेंगे, of course we talk about cabinet. A cabinet, according to the Constitution, Article 91(1) of the Constitution, comprises of ministers, and the Prime Minister heads the cabinet. So there shall be a cabinet of ministers with the Prime Minister as its head to aid and advise the President in the exercise of his functions. So this is really very important कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर जो है उसको एडवाइस भी देगा प्रेसिडेंट को, एंड देन देयर शुड बी अ कैबिनेट ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स, And then, so the Prime Minister is the financial functional head, and he helps the President in fulfilling his responsibilities. So now you see that कि Prime Minister is the functional head, कि जो आपका एक ऑपरेशनल काम है, जो आपका फंक्शनल काम है, जो डिफरेंट फंक्शंस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने परफॉर्म करने हैं, उन फंक्शंस को परफॉर्म करने के लिए यू नीड टू हैव दैट पर्सन, एंड दैट पर्सन इज द प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ पाकिस्तान. और प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान जो है उसको हेल्प आउट करेगा इन ऑर्डर टू फुलफिल हिज जॉब रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज. Now we move on towards constitutional bodies. So there are other constitutional bodies which have the functions defined by the Constitution. So these are the National Economic Council, National Finance Commission, Supreme Court of Pakistan, High Court of Pakistan, and of course Public Service Commission. So these bodies regulate and make policy decisions which have long-term impact. Now we talk about the National Economic Council. I think इसके बारे में आपने मीडिया पे बहुत सुना होगा कि जो नेशनल इकोनॉमिक काउंसिल है वो क्या क्या उसकी एक्टिविटीज हैं, वो करते क्या हैं. So Article 156(1) of the Constitution states that the President shall remain or constitute a National Economic Council consisting of Prime Minister, who shall be its chairman, and such other members as the President may determine. NEC shall review the overall economic conditions of the country and shall formulate the plans in respect of, like for example, financial, commercial, social and economic policies. Now we move on towards National Finance Commission. So Article 160 of the Constitution states that the President shall constitute a National Finance Commission consisting of the Minister of Finance of Federal Government, Minister of Finance of the Provincial Governments, etc. The NFC is a body that decides every 5 years after collection of taxes how much should be given to the provinces and how much to the federal government. So जैसे कि हमने मीडिया पे देखा कि जो प्रोविंसेस को जो एलोकेशंस होती हैं, फाइनेंशियल एलोकेशंस होती हैं, उसके अंदर कभी कभी इश्यूज आ जाते हैं कि प्रोविंसेस जो हैं वो कहते हैं कि हमारी डिफरेंट नीड्स हैं, उस नीड्स को फुलफिल करने के लिए हमें जो है फाइनेंशियल कोई उसके अंदर हेल्प आउट किया जाए. तो दिस इज रियली वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि यहाँ पे हमें एक टीम वर्क नजर आ रहा है. एंड देन एनएफसी आल्सो गिव्स द क्राइटेरिया ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ विच रिसोर्सेज आर एलोकेटेड अमंग प्रोविंसेस. तो प्रोविंसेस को जो रिसोर्स एलोकेशन है, दैट इज वन ऑफ द मेजर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज ऑफ नेशनल फाइनेंस कमीशन. Now we move on our discussion towards the courts. Now Article 175 of the Constitution provides that there shall be a Supreme Court of Pakistan, High Court for each province, and such other courts as may be established by law. So Article 176 provides that the Supreme Court of Pakistan shall consist of a Chief Justice and so any other judges as may be determined by Act of Majlis-e-Shura or as may be fixed by the President. Now talking about the High Court of Pakistan, Article 192 provides for the High Court. Now it says that a High Court shall consist of a Chief Justice and so many other judges as may be determined by law or unit so determined as may be fixed by the President. Now here it says that courts are bodies which interpret law, that is give decisions on cases brought before the courts. So this is really very important कि कोर्ट्स जो हैं वो लॉ की इंटरप्रिटेशन करती हैं, कोर्ट्स जो हैं वो डिसीजंस लेती हैं और जितनी ज़्यादा वो जल्दी मैनेज करती हैं केसेस को, जितनी ज़्यादा प्रॉपरली इन्वेस्टिगेट करके उसको फिल्टर करके दे डिसाइड. एंड देन for example, a case was brought before the court by the affected party against legislation passed by the provincial assembly. So and then banning serving of food on marriage. So court, after reviewing the case, upheld the legislation. Now you see that the courts can also upheld the legislation. अगर कोई कानून साजी हुई है तो courts can bring in new decisions, and sometimes they may change it as well. Now finally we talk about the provision of services. Like for example, the Constitution Article 240 also provides for the service condition of the civil service. So it says that in the case of services of the Federation, posts in connection with the affairs of the Federation and all Pakistan services by and under the Act of Parliament, and in case of the services of a province and post in connection with the affairs of the province by or under Act of the Provincial Assembly. Now the Act of Parliament referred to in the above article is the Civil Service Act 1973. Okay, now after this, I believe that you have learned the different functions of the government, and we have discussed different like constitution. Like for example, we talked about the 1973 Constitution of Pakistan. We have talked about the functions of National Assembly, and we talked about the provincial assemblies. We have talked about the Senate, and we have talked about the judiciary and other, and how they perform their different activities. In today's lecture, we have also talked about how the recruitments are being made in the Federal Public Service Commission of Pakistan and Provincial Public Service Commission of Pakistan. We have also talked about the recruitment, how the recruitments are made in the autonomous organizations in Pakistan. I believe that you will revise this lecture today, and then I hope that you also make your keynotes from these lectures, and I wish all of you best of luck, and inshallah see you all in the next lecture. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Khuda Hafiz.